The man accused of killing a homeless street artist on a New York City subway surrendered to police. There's the pictures of it right there. He is inside the precinct now. We expect to see him again very shortly as he heads to court. Daniel Penny is facing second-degree manslaughter charges in connection with the death of Jordan Neely. Neely died after Penny put him in a chokehold on that subway. Witnesses say on May 1st, Neely got on the train acting erratically. They say he was shouting at passengers, but there are no reports that he physically attacked anyone. Then video shows Penny wrapping his arms around Neely's neck, forcing him to the ground. Witnesses say he held him there for several minutes until Neely stopped breathing. His death was ruled a homicide, though it took nearly 2 weeks to file charges. The video sparked protests and calls from the city's mayor to revamp services for the homeless. Neely was known by many in New York City for his Michael Jackson impersonations. His family tells CNN he had been suffering from mental health issues since 2007 when he found his mother's body inside a suitcase. In recent years, Neely had been put on the city's top 50 list of homeless people with acute needs. His funeral will be held next Friday, Kate.
And Penny's lawyers have previously said that he risked his life to save other passengers. And just after Penny arrived at the precinct last hour, his attorneys spoke to reporters and cameras that were standing outside. CNN's Omar Jimenez is outside the police precinct. You were there as Penny entered. What are his attorneys saying today?
Yeah, Kate, they're saying a little bit of what we heard from in their statement, saying that this was someone, their client, Daniel Penny, was someone who was defending not just himself, but those in the subway car around. Now, people that have been protesting argue the absolute opposite. Now, he's been inside this police precinct behind me here for about an hour. He got here a little bit after 8 a.m. Eastern time, walked in, did not say anything, despite some shouts from reporters, wearing a suit with some Vans as he walked in, seemed at least calm on the outside, but of course we don't know everything that's happening on the inside as well. As we understand, is to face a charge of second-degree manslaughter, and shortly after he went in, his attorney, one of his attorneys, Thomas Kniff, came out and gave a statement which actually may give us a brief glimpse into part of their strategy in their defense here. Take a listen.
Dealing with the situation, like I said, with the sort of integrity and honor that is characteristic of who he is, characteristic of his honorable service in the United States Marine Corps, and you know, he has held up.
Now, Daniel Penny, 24-year-old U.S. Marine veteran, that's part of why his attorney referenced that. And on the other side of things, Jordan Neely. So his family attorneys are expected to make a statement a little bit later this morning to react, but they have been calling for this arrest since this happened. Obviously, it's been more than a week's time at this point, and that's part of what's driven a lot of the protests here. That bottom line, people feel that no matter what happened leading up to this chokehold, that they don't feel this should have resulted in death. But later on, he will be in court, expected to be arraigned as this process continues.
All right, let's see. And it begins. Thank you, Omar. Appreciate it.
Daniel Penny faces a second-degree manslaughter charge in the death of homeless street artist Jordan Neely. He is expected to be arraigned this afternoon. Neely was known around the city for his Michael Jackson impersonations. On the day of his death, witnesses say he got on the train shouting he was hungry and saying he didn't care if he died or went to jail. That's when Penny, pictured here in the brown jacket that you see, wrapped his arms around Neely's neck and took him to the ground. Witnesses say he kept Neely in a chokehold until Neely went unconscious and then stopped breathing. Penny's attorney says he was protecting himself and his fellow subway passengers. Here's what else he said this morning.
Daniel Penny surrendered at the 5th Precinct at the request of the New York County District Attorney's Office.
Sit down, sit down.
He did so voluntarily and with the sort of dignity and integrity that is characteristic of his history of service to this grateful nation.
We are expecting to hear from Jordan Neely's family in about an hour, but joining me now is CNN Chief Law Enforcement and Intelligence Analyst John Miller. Can we first talk about what happened this morning? He walks in, turns himself in, and then what?
So he surrenders. He is arrested by New York City police detectives, charged with manslaughter in the second degree, which means recklessly causing the death of another. Then he goes to arraignment, where the district attorney will present the charges to an arraignment court judge who will determine whether he needs to set bail or whether he'll be released.
All right, the coroner medical examiner said, look, this was a homicide. And so I guess the question to a lot of people is, this happened on May 1st. We are now well past that, almost a couple of weeks. Why didn't the arrest happen right away?
The district attorney, from the day of May 1st going forward, wanted more time to look at the case, which is, what does the medical examiner say the cause of death was? And the medical examiner said it was homicide. That's not a legal ruling. That's a medical finding saying his death was caused by another, but also by compression of the neck, which puts Daniel Penny squarely in that box.
Yeah.
They also wanted to know, what did the witnesses say? Had he assaulted anybody? Was there a self-defense angle there before going forward? They could have put it in a grand jury, let them hear all the evidence and decide whether to indict. But yesterday, they basically said, we're going to call him in, we're going to charge him, we'll put that through a grand jury, and we'll get the wheels of justice turning, because at that point, they felt they had enough information.
I do want to ask you about the indictment and the chances. I mean, obviously, we've sort of seen some of the evidence on the video, but there are comments from witnesses that I'm sure that the grand jury would have to hear from.
So this is really important, and it boils down to the two stories. For Thomas Caniff, the lawyer, and Daniel Penny, the story is going to be, he bursts into the car, Mr. Neely, he's saying, I'm tired, I'm thirsty, I'm hungry, I don't care if I go to jail, I don't care if I do life. Now stop the tape here and say, what does that mean to Daniel Penny? Go to jail for doing what? What is he about to do? Go away for life? Is he planning to kill somebody? Then Mr. Neely takes his jacket off, throws it down on the ground, according to Penny's statement, balls his hands into fists, and he says, I believe he's about to assault somebody, so I intervened. The question is, was holding someone in that chokehold? And this is where we get away from Penny's story and into the people of the state of New York versus Daniel Penny is, no one had been assaulted yet. He put him in a chokehold and held him there for several minutes till he was unconscious, and he never woke up. So should he, in the post-George Floyd world, where we've all seen that video and we know those risks, should he have known that his actions could likely cause the death of another? And that is the crux of this case, those two sides.
That's something that the grand jury is going to have to decide, and then ultimately the district attorney, and if it goes to trial, a jury. A complaint has been filed with the Civilian Complaint Review Board, and now they're investigating whether police committed misconduct by not arresting him, letting the suspect go in this case. What's the latest on that? What do we know? Where is that?
Well, the Civilian Complaint Review Board, which is an independent agency from the police department, received this complaint and announced yesterday, or confirmed yesterday, that they have a formal investigation into it. It's a little far-fetched, Sarah. Okay. You're the police department, you have a person in custody, you go to the district attorney and say, what charge will you support? And they say, we don't know, you need to hold off and get more information. It's going to be very hard to find misconduct there. I think it's a little bit of posturing.
Ostensibly, they talked to witnesses as well on the scene that day. So it'll be interesting to see how that goes forward as well. John Miller, always a pleasure to speak to you. Thank you.
Thanks.